Welcome back to Haunted Mysteries, where we uncover the secrets they desperately want buried. Tonight, we're breaking a story so explosive, so impossible, that international intelligence agencies are scrambling to explain how they got it so catastrophically wrong. Brace yourself, because what you're about to witness will haunt the corridors of power for decades to come. Do you Ibrahim Traoré was supposed to be dead by now? According to every Western intelligence report, every military expert, every so-called Africa analyst, President Ibrahim Traoré from Burkina Faso should have been eliminated months ago. The odds were stacked impossibly against him. Terrorist groups controlled half his country. International powers had written him off. His own military was underfunded and demoralized. Yet somehow, in the dead of night, Ibrahim Traoré orchestrated the most brutal military operation in West African history. Over 1,000 insurgents wiped out in a single coordinated strike, 0 civilian casualties, complete tactical domination. But here's the part that will leave you speechless. This wasn't luck. This wasn't foreign intervention. This was pure African genius that the world never saw coming. Burkina Faso, a country most people can't even pronounce correctly, just delivered a masterclass in modern warfare that has military academies rewriting their textbooks. Stick with me, because what Ibrahim Traoré achieved in Burkina Faso will shatter every assumption you've ever had about African military capability. This isn't just a war story. This is the moment Africa stopped asking for permission and started taking control. See? President Ibrahim Traoré, staring at a map of his country covered in red zones. Terrorist groups controlled vast territories. People were fleeing their homes, and international forces were making promises they couldn't keep. But instead of begging for more foreign help, Traoré made a decision that would shock the world. He decided Burkina Faso would rescue itself. However, what happened next was pure genius. While other leaders were buying expensive weapons and hiring foreign consultants, Traoré turned to the most overlooked weapon in any war: his own people. Farmers became intelligence agents. Shopkeepers became spotters. Even children were taught to recognize unusual sounds and movements. This wasn't traditional warfare. This was a complete revolution in how African nations could defend themselves. Meanwhile, something else was happening in the shadows. Traoré wasn't just building a people's army. He was secretly developing a drone program that would make military experts around the world take notice. These weren't leftover drones from Western allies. These were cutting-edge machines designed specifically for Burkina Faso's unique challenges, equipped with thermal imaging that could spot enemies in complete darkness and strike with deadly precision. But here's where the story gets absolutely incredible. The military created something called the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland. These weren't professional soldiers. These were ordinary citizens who had lost everything to terrorist attacks, farmers who watched their crops burn, teachers whose schools were destroyed, mechanics whose workshops were bombed. Now imagine their rage channeled into disciplined fighting units working alongside elite commandos. Then came the moment that changed everything. Intelligence reports revealed that over 1,000 insurgents were moving through the Arbinda corridor, confident and completely unaware of what was waiting for them. For weeks, tiny drones no bigger than birds had been tracking their every move. Local informants had mapped their routes. The trap was set, and these terrorists were walking straight into history. What happened next was like watching a deadly symphony unfold. The first drone strike hit the lead vehicle with surgical precision, cutting off the convoy's head. Within seconds, another strike sealed their escape route. But this wasn't random bombing. This was calculated destruction. 3 drones danced through the sky, pushing the panicked insurgents directly into kill zones where Cobra commandos were waiting in complete silence. Suddenly, the night exploded with coordinated violence. Snipers took out commanders with pinpoint accuracy. Ground forces swept in from multiple directions. Helicopters provided air support, while flares turned night into day. But the most shocking part wasn't the military precision. It was the volunteers fighting alongside elite forces with the fury of people protecting their homeland. Yet what makes this story truly remarkable is what happened after the smoke cleared. Over 1,000 insurgents were eliminated. Not a single innocent civilian was harmed. The operation was so precise, so devastating, that terrorist groups across the region suddenly realized Burkina Faso was no longer easy prey. The country that everyone had written off had just delivered the most brutal military lesson in Sahel history. Nevertheless, this victory revealed something even more powerful than military success. Burkina Faso had proven that African nations don't need to wait for foreign saviors. They don't need expensive Western contracts or complicated international agreements. With the right leadership, local knowledge, and smart use of technology, they can defend themselves better than any outside force ever could. Furthermore, the ripple effects of this operation spread far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Other African leaders began asking uncomfortable questions. If Burkina Faso could achieve this level of military success, what excuse did other countries have for remaining dependent on foreign protection? The operation didn't just eliminate insurgents. It eliminated excuses. Equally important, this transformation didn't happen overnight. It took months of careful planning, community building, and strategic thinking. Traoré understood that real security comes from within. When people feel ownership of their country's defense, when they see their government actually protecting them, they fight harder than any hired mercenary ever could. Still, the most powerful message from Burkina Faso's success isn't about weapons or tactics. It's about mindset. Traoré proved that the difference between victim and victor isn't resources or size or international support. It's the courage to take responsibility for your own destiny and the intelligence to use what you have instead of waiting for what you don't. Consequently, other African nations are now watching closely, studying Burkina Faso's model and asking themselves a critical question. If they can do it, why can't we? The answer is becoming increasingly clear. They can. They just need leaders brave enough to try. Today, Burkina Faso stands as proof that Africa's military potential has been dramatically underestimated. The continent that was once dismissed as hopeless has just produced one of the most sophisticated military operations in recent history. The question isn't whether African nations can defend themselves. The question is whether they will choose to. This is the story they don't want you to hear. This is the Africa that challenges every stereotype, every assumption, every excuse for continued dependence. Burkina Faso didn't just win a battle. They won back their dignity, their sovereignty, and their future. And that, my friends, is the most dangerous weapon of all, the weapon of possibility. What do you think about this incredible transformation? Could other African countries follow Burkina Faso's example? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of African excellence that mainstream media refuses to cover. The truth about Africa's rising power is just beginning to unfold, and you don't want to miss what comes next.